So the document we are going to use is an extract of the main Excel documentation, which is more elaborate, has more examples, and it discusses some of the Excel actions that I'm not going to discuss today. I want to get into the main ones, the most important ones. So there's two things about the Quad Excel that you should know about. If you compare to read and write as far as the information between APL64 and an APL and an Excel worksheet, you'll find if you compare it to application Excel or Excel.application, depending on the version you have, you'll find that this is much, much faster. In fact, if in certain cases, if the data is if the APL array is a homogeneous array, it can be tremendously faster. But the overall performance is way, way better. The second thing is that this is a cross-platform tool. Application Excel or Excel application, whichever you use, is based on ActiveX, so it's a Windows the only thing. So as far as the Quad Excel, you can use it in a C for the cross-platform use. You can use it in a WRE, Windows Runtime Executable, and you can run it in the developer version as an APL program. Okay, so and I've shown here where the main documentation is available. What we plan to do is after we have this talk here, we'll probably combine and add some of the information in this abbreviated document back into the main, or we may just put this document out as a second element as a summary. Okay, so let's go on. Here are the current Excel actions, okay? And the actions that we've selected to include are defined by two things. One, it is mainly the issue of handling APL format data and converting it to Excel format data. That is something that us as developers are really the only ones that can handle, unless you use an ActiveX tool, which, like I said, is not cross-platform. So let's go over these actions. So the add a worksheet, that's fairly self-evident. If you have an existing workbook, this will add a worksheet. You can specify the name. The auto fit action is to cause Excel to either the auto fit by rows or columns, and you notice that I've that in the documentation here it indicates that there's not a single range. You can enter a list of ranges, which is handy. The column name, the column number to column name, that might seem like a very simple thing, but it does depend on the version of the workbook that you're using. If it's a traditional XLS, then you know the column names and the column numbers are restricted, and this will correctly throw an exception if you try to give it a column name that's beyond the, I think it's 256 limit. But XML format workbook, then the range is greater. This one, the create a workbook, is also self-evident. Let me clear that up. That will create a workbook and provide its name. Okay, and the a worksheet, that's fairly self-evident. All right, so let's talk a moment about the from APL actions. So this will take an array of APL data and will write it to either worksheet cells. You specify the cells in a certain way. I'll get into that shortly. Or you can specify a single continuous range and then APL to range. These are these are two of the tools which show the great performance. If you're a programmer and you want to see the syntax just to remind you, then you can use the help or the question mark action. Number format, the ranges, it provides an option to specify the number format, including as text, as date, as integer, and all of that through a list of ranges or a single range. The R1C1 to the A1 is a converter, so it'll convert the row and column cell addresses to the so-called alpha or A format, like the A1 colon B3 or whatever. Okay. Save the worksheet as a CSV. That's a handy little thing that you can use. Okay. Uh, 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 to sort the range, this is a classic Excel action. It specify the columns and the range, and then the range can be the entire the worksheet, the cells, or it can be a range. Now we come to the reverse of the from. Those are the two from to APL from range. I'll skip that from the CSV shortly. So the to APL will provide the option to specify cells. I'll get into that. There's a few details there of importance. The to APL from range, as if you have a contiguous range, it'll bring us back to an APL array. Okay. The to APL from CSV, that's fairly obvious. There's some options there that deal with the and the as far as row delimiters. The use range is essentially exactly the same as in Excel. A couple of warnings there. The use range in Excel has a few tricky details to it. If you were to open a new worksheet and manipulate some as far as data there, and then delete it from a cell, that cell is going to be considered as used. So that's important to understand. But this tool that we're using, it mimics Excel exactly. The number of worksheets count, that's obvious, and the worksheet names. One little detail about the worksheet names is that the worksheet names can contain the Unicode characters, so the result is a Unicode character array. That's important. All right. Let's talk about a little bit about the syntax of Quad Excel. All Excel actions return a two-element vector. The first element is a Boolean 1 if it's successful. If the action was the unsuccessful, the second element is a character vector indicating the exception message. If the action was successful, then the second element depends upon the action. So, for example, a to APL, if it was successful, if the to APL action is successful, then the second element of the result will be the data. So that's the idea. Excel action names, they aren't case sensitive. So you could use all capitals for to APL or mix it any way you want. On the other hand, the the workbook names, worksheet names, and the workbook cells can contain the Unicode characters. So although we do demote the data when we use, let's say, 2APL, the under the covers, it may not be possible to demote them to what what you think of as the int32 style characters. It's possibly char depending on the names of workbooks, uh, uh, the worksheets, or as far as cell values. Okay, so that's a little quick summary. The other half of the syntax is also quite simple. Be on the right hand side, the quad Excel, then the action name. That's a piece of text, so you can put it in quotes. It could be an APL string, or it could be a variable containing that text. And then there's the arguments. So that the entire the right hand, the argument of quad Excel is a vector. Okay. Depending on the action, that is what's going to determine the required arguments. Okay, so let's get into the sending APL data to an Excel worksheet. So the actual syntax here is, as I said, there's a Boolean on the left and successful. It's going to be empty, an empty character array. If it fails, it will be the exception message. There's the action. Then there's the workbook path and the workspace name, and then the included rows and the included columns. Those are integer vectors, each of those two. Then there's an option for the date time conversion, so that depending on the data that is in the Excel sheet, it's going to determine if it finds that there's a cell that's formatted as a date. Depending on this conversion option, the data that's returned back to APL will be either an Excel date number or a 7-element quad TS as far as vector. So that's on a cell by cell basis. The source APL values, that's in terms of the actual data that you want to send to Excel. Okay, so all right, the error message, the workspace path. Okay, a little detail here that if the workbook path does not exist, then the from APL is going to create it. It's going to create it. The worksheet name is the specified name. Again, if the worksheet does not exist, it's going to be created. The included rows. Okay, so there, order of those rows and the quad IO is a significant thing. So that in Excel we normally think of the first row as the number one, but in APL we could, if quad IO is a 0, then that's the 0th row, etc. So this is the same with as far as columns. Okay. Now we get to the date time, the converter option. If you specify this text, then it's assumed that the data that you've provided to send to Excel for that particular cell is a 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7, the element vector. Okay. If on the other hand you decide to use Excel date and time, then it's assumed to be a floating point value starting here. Okay. Let's see. And then the source of the values in an array are accessed when we put the data into an Excel. A cell is in the Ravel order as far as that array. So here we have a small example. So I've created these examples are typical of what you'd find in the main documentation for Quad Excel. You can copy them out and then you can be executing them on your own to actually try this out. So we create a little directory. We create the path. Then we do a little the number formatting, which I just put that in here as an example. It's optional. Then then we create some APL data. So it's in the first row we have a character vector, then a 7-element APL timestamp, then a floating point number, and then some starting starting on the second row, the same kind of data. So here's the from the APL action. So we have the workspace path, the sheet, the affected columns. So it's going to go into rows the 1 and 2 and columns 1 through 3. There's our date time converter, and there's the actual data. Okay. Yeah. So I already mentioned about the number format ranges. Okay. So as I've discussed, the date time argument, etc., creates it if they do not exist. The IO dependent. All right. So there's a little interesting detail about from the APL tool, the APL from APL the action. It's not necessary that the Excel range be contiguous. So although in my simple example it was a continuous range, here's an example of rows and columns the specified, and it's equivalent to these 3 ranges. Okay, so that's an ability. So we found that for the majority of the uses, the to range is the easiest to use. But on the other hand, that only applies to a contiguous range. But if you use the from APL, you have a couple more options. Okay, you can skip certain rows and columns. So here's the actual operation in APL64, and then and there's the actual data that was put out there. And because we did the number formatting, the information is going to be shown as a date. Okay. So that's the reason that we included it there. All right. Let's go on. So let's talk about the inverse action. So the inverse action is the 2 APL the action. So we have the work path, the workspace name. Those they have to exist because we're depending on that to get the data. The included rows and the columns is the same as we discussed before. There's in Excel, Excel does not store the data, including any sort of as far as metadata. So, for example, when Excel stores data and the data is text, it stores it in a text format, and so it cannot distinguish between what we can distinguish in APL64 as the difference between a string and a character vector. So that when you're obtaining data from an Excel worksheet, you may not even may, you should be specifying how you want text data to be returned. So for a traditional the APL style, you would specify that the that the actual data that it should come back as a character vector, just like here. Okay. But if, on the other hand, you're going to be using the data that you got back from Excel in some other, let's say, .NET type of action, then you would specify it as an APL string. Okay. All right. In fact, the only way that Excel knows that, and I've used that word knows in a skeptical way, is because of the actual formatting. It and so all right. And there's the date time conversion. Again, if you want the data for a cell that's a date time formatted cell, if you want it as a quad TS data vector, good. Then you can specify this. If, on the other hand, you want it as an Excel date time thing, as far as value, then yes, then that's the option here. There are two other the options. Uh, uh, this option here, and also, and also this option here. This darn. It's all right. It's because I don't want to do this. All right. And also the very last option. Those are the arbitrary APL values that if in obtaining the data from the Excel, the worksheet, there's an empty cell, you can choose the actual data that is going to be sent back to APL. And the same thing, if the cell has an error value, you can choose what the error value will be in the retrieved APL64 data. Let's see. All right. I think that's essentially that action. Okay. So here's an example, and in this example we show the two to convert date time. So in this particular the worksheet, it's really the same as the one that we just created in the from APL. So in the first case, when we select APL date time, the array has the 3 columns and 2 rows, and in the second column are the quad TS vectors. If, on the other hand, you want the Excel date time, then then uh, then you use this option here. And I also mentioned this, that that in Excel, character vectors and strings are considered the same. So the APL programmer, that's you, should be specifying how you want, as far as text data, to be returned. Okay. All right, let's continue on. Yes. So the two variants of the from APL to range, and the to APL from range. So the syntax is extremely simple, except instead of the row and the vectors of row and columns, you enter in a contiguous Excel range. Okay, good. That's a little bit simpler to use, but does not have the flexibility of the to and from APL actions. The Excel used range. So the result is for the element integer vector. There is an option. It's a in scalar to consider cells if the value is, as far as non-empty. That's because of, like I said, the way that Excel defines the used range. Okay, so that's about it for this. I mean, it's a very simple tool. Okay, let's see what else we have. Uh, the multi-column sorting. Okay, so the actual syntax, there's the path, the workspace name, the 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 range info, is the sort is case sensitive or not, and then the sort levels. Okay, so in this case we specify the path. We we specify some data, and we use the from APL to create some data. Okay, so here's the data before we did sorting. It's a very easy thing: A, B, C, D, E, etc. T, and we're going to sort this little block in here. Okay, all right. So the range is the B2 colon D4. That's the range. We want to say that the sorting is not case sensitive, and we want to sort first on B and then on D. Okay. And so in order to do that, we specify the path, the sheet one, the range, the info. That's easy enough. Sort is case sensitive, and then the actual sort levels. Okay. So here it is in APL64. And there's the actual sort. So as far as this is the result. So that the actions, the to and from APL, the range, and also sorting, that it does save the worksheet at that point. So when you use that action, so for example, when you use the sort range action, it's going to change the actual workbook, change the affected as far as the worksheet, and it's going to save it in the same format as the worksheet and the workbook was. Okay. All right. So this is the little summary here. Okay. If at some point you just need a quick summary without going out to the help document and all of that, you can use that. All right. So I prepared a little comparison with Excel.the application. I'm sure by now you recognize that Excel.application does a lot more things, but I'll describe some of that. So the first the two elements are the performance and the ability to use it in a cross-platform environment. This is not available here. Okay, the performance is okay if you're doing just a few cells. You'll probably find Excel.application is adequate. But if you get into a large number of cells, you'll see there's a big difference. The automatic handling of the values, generally with Excel.application, you need to use VT. The Unicode cell the values. I didn't actually check this, so I'll have to go back. So I put an NAR, use the UCS. I don't know if Excel application will accept APL the UCS data. I'll have to check that, but I didn't have time. Excel action names are not case sensitive. All the Excel application stuff, it is case sensitive. Okay, so here we come to a very the difference. Uh, uh, Excel tool is not designed for displaying an Excel worksheet. It can't do that. Currently in the vast array of tools that are available as far as .NET, there is no cross-platform tool that enables the display of an Excel workbook. It's just not available. So if it became available, we would certainly be examining that, but it isn't. So, but here, if you use the X visible property, you can display the workbook as the data is as far as changes. Okay, and the other thing, I'm sure that if you've ever used Excel the application, there are a ton of additional events and also properties and also methods that you can use. Those those are actually available with the uh, the Excel tool that we've created, but there is a license. We have paid a license to distribute what we are distributing to all APL customers. But to add those additional properties requires a programmer as far as license, and that's a fairly expensive thing. I think it's close to $1,000 per programmer. So obviously, considering what we make APL64 available for, we really can't provide that. But we are considering. In fact, I've tested this; it works well. That if in the future we could open up a field that you could set your appropriate license key in there, and then all the other Excel events and properties and also methods you could do the via Quad Excel. But as I said, it's fairly expensive, and the APL2K would not be the vendor for that as far as license. It's a well-known company as far as spreadsheet gear that you would contact. We haven't started this. We haven't gone ahead to expose that field. I've created the field. It works, and there's a lot of other actions, but you would need to buy that license externally. So if you're interested in that, before we go in to make the effort to go and do that, you should contact us and say, yes, I'd like to see that. And if there's sufficient interest, there's a good chance that we would go ahead. And then you could enter the license key in your individual copy of APL64, and that would be opening up additional properties and methods and a ton of other things. It still would not enable you to display an Excel workbook, or because that isn't available on a cross-platform basis yet. Okay, so I've used up my portion of the time, and so if you have any specific questions, if you don't have the specific questions, then we can discuss it. Be any other topic. Okay.